Hi, I'm Miss Linda again, and today I'm going to talk to you about moths and butterflies. And then I'm going to show you two really cool science experiments. I know today you've been talking about how God transforms us, and your bug for the day was the Luna moth. Well, moths and butterflies also go through a transformation process as they develop from the little bitty egg to the adult moth or butterfly. And this process is referred to as metamorphosis. Metamorphosis consists of 4 forms or stages, starting with the egg. The egg then develops into a caterpillar, also referred to as a larva, and then into a pupa, and then into the adult. So I'm going to illustrate this process of metamorphosis with a science experiment. We're going to start out where the adult butterfly or moth lays an egg, usually on a leaf. After a few days or a week or so, that egg will hatch into a caterpillar, kind of like what I have drawn on the balloon that's on my bottle. If you've read the book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, you know what caterpillars do, right? They eat and they eat and they eat. And as they eat, they grow and they grow and they grow. They grow so big that they lose their skin, and then they have to develop more skin. This happens several times until finally that caterpillar is full. Now let me back up and say that the caterpillar doesn't eat all the crazy foods like you read about in the book. The caterpillar is not eating cake and ice cream and pizza, but it's eating that leaf on which the egg was originally found, and it eats on leaves around it. So when the caterpillar gets full grown, it's going to develop into the pupa form. In moths, the pupa is surrounded by a protective covering called a cocoon. It's made out of silk. The insect itself will spin that silk around itself. So in the butterfly, the outer layer of that pupa gets hard, and it's referred to as a chrysalis stage. Now the pupa and the chrysalis stages just kind of hang down, usually from a twig or a branch, kind of like my balloons just hanging down from the bottle. It looks like nothing's going on inside that cocoon or chrysalis, but a lot of really important things are happening. Wings are being produced, antennae are being produced, mouth parts are changing. So all this takes place over several weeks, and eventually then that adult is going to be formed, and it's going to start coming out of the cocoon or chrysalis. And it kind of comes out similar to this. And then you have the adult moth or butterfly. So stay with me, and I'm going to show you another fun experiment that you can do at home. Before I show you the experiment that you're going to do at home, I want to talk a little bit about how moths and butterflies eat. Now, your bug of the day was the Luna moth, and the Luna moth does not have mouth parts, and it does not eat. It just survives on the stored food that it has in its body for the short time that it is alive. But other moths and butterflies do eat. They don't have teeth, so they can't bite or chew, but they can eat liquid food. So I want to show you a diagram of, this is actually a butterfly, but it's the same for moths. They have a special kind of a tongue-like structure called a proboscis. And this is what they use to eat with. When it's at rest, it kind of curls up kind of like a garden hose, and it sticks out the front of its head. But when it gets ready to eat, it extends this structure, and it works kind of like a straw. So if it's on a flower, it can extend the proboscis into the center of the flower, and then it can suck up nectar, which is that real sweet liquid found in the flower. It can also suck up other things like sap or juice from fruit or even mud. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about how butterflies and moths taste. How do you taste things? Well, if you said with your tongue, you are absolutely right. When we put something in our mouth, the tongue sends signals to the brain that tell us whether it's sweet or sour or salty or bitter, and then we decide whether we like it or not. Well, butterflies and moths have taste sensors on their feet, or at least on the bottom of their legs. So that turns out really convenient for them because when they land on a flower, they can detect the sugars in that flower and decide whether they're going to like it or not. It's also real helpful for when they're looking for leaves on which they want to lay their eggs. They can land on a leaf and decide if it would provide suitable food for the caterpillar that will hatch from that egg. And they can also tell if that particular leaf might be toxic or harmful to the caterpillar. And if that's the case, it's going to go find another leaf. So today, the experiment that I'm going to show you that you're going to then do at home is called the Moth Butterfly Food Sensory Challenge. So I'm going to first go over what you're going to need for this. The most important thing you need is a parent or a person to be your helper, because the helper is actually going to set up the experiment and then you will participate in the challenge. So both of you need to watch my demonstration. So what you're going to need are 4 cups, and I had put in the directions opaque cups because you don't want to see the liquid inside. You want it to just be hidden kind of inside. But you'll need 4 of those. Now if you want to do more than 4, that's perfectly fine, but 4 is kind of a good number. Then you have to have 4 different types of juice or other liquids. The ones that I selected are lemonade. This is actually pink lemonade, grape juice, orange juice, and apple juice. So what you will do is to pour a little bit of each liquid into each cup so that each cup has a separate liquid. After you do that, you will put a straw in each cup. Now all of this should be done away from the person that's going to take the challenge. And then you should hide your 4 juices so they won't know what liquid you're using. You can even use combinations of juice. Like my granddaughter's favorite is cranberry raspberry. So for an older child, you may want to use a combination of juices. You could even use water. So you set it all up, hide your juices, and then the person that's going to participate in the challenge will come in and take the challenge. So all of these will be hidden where they can't see it. The child will come in and pick up the first cup, and using the straw, like the proboscis, they will soak up some of the liquid without looking inside the cup, and then guess what it is. So they can either tell you orally, or if they prefer, they can write it down. So they'll do the same thing to each of the 4 cups, and guess what each of the 4 liquids is. At the end, the helper will tell the child what each juice or liquid is, and then they'll tell them how well their senses did in this sensory challenge. So now it's going to be time for your helper to set up the experiment first and then for you to take the challenge. If you'd like more information on how moths and butterflies eat or how they develop, like I talked about earlier, check out some of our optional videos that are on the bottom of the science page. Also, enjoy the rest of your day at VBS and join us tomorrow for more fun science experiments. But for now, enjoy your butterfly or moth food, and I hope you do well in your challenge. Goodbye.